Hello, I'm Will Bushy, the founder of Gaming Bootcamp, and I'm here today to talk to you about some of the video games that we're going to create as part of our virtual coding club. Now, normally our coding clubs will last 12 weeks and we'll do about an hour and a half, one day a week for the kids. But given these circumstances and the fact that everybody's quarantined, we thought we would consolidate that material into 6 hours of curriculum each week. And in addition to those 6 hours, we're going to provide you with 2 or 3 opportunities to get together with our teachers via a Zoom meeting to help your kids get unstuck or answer any questions that they might have. Now, normally we would cover about 5 or 6 different video games over that 12-week period, and we're going to consolidate that into about 3 weeks, and we're going to build some really cool games. Now, in addition to learning about physics engines, platform engines, 8-direction engines, we're also going to build some real interesting games similar to things like Super Mario Brothers. I've got a real interesting one called Floppy Man that uses physics. We're also going to build a Space Invaders game, which is going to be very similar to the original Space Invaders game, and many, many more. If this quarantine lasts for 6 months, I guarantee you I'm going to have enough curriculum to cover that period of time. So if this sounds like something your kids would be interested in, head over to sdgamingbootcamp.com and get all the information, and you can also sign up there as well. So with that, I hope everybody stays at home and stays safe during this uncertain time, and we'll see you online. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to head over to Sierra's website, and we're going to take a quick look at Construct 2 and Construct 3. So type in scirra.com into your web browser. Now you can use Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer or Edge. It doesn't matter. Any of them are going to work. When you first get there, it's going to be a page that looks like this, and they're going to be talking about Construct 3. Now you may notice that it's got an option to try and buy. Now we're only going to use the free version of both Construct 2 or Construct 3, so don't worry too much about that. Let's start by installing Construct 2. Now if you happen to have a Mac computer or a Chromebook, you're definitely going to need to use Construct 3. But if you're using a Windows computer, I'd like you to use Construct 2. So if you know for sure you're using Construct 3, you can just go ahead and skip this part and head over to the Construct 3 video. So for Construct 2, we're going to click on the Construct 2 link at the very top, and that's going to take us to a page that says, hey, here's a warning, Construct 2 is going to be retired on July 1st, 2020. And that's true, but we're going to go ahead and continue to use it until then. Now, what's a little bit confusing on this page is that it's not really clear how you download the free version. They're still kind of pushing you to the paid version, but if you scroll all the way to the very bottom, you'll see a link that says download and then stable release R277. We're actually going to go ahead and click on that link right there, and that's going to take us to the download page. Now this program just got updated a few weeks ago, so there's a new version, and if you happen to already have Construct 2 installed, it may have already asked you to go ahead and upgrade. In either case, if you've never installed it or if you want to upgrade, we're just going to go ahead and click the download button. It's going to ask us where we want to save it, and you don't have to worry about this form here. You can just go ahead and say save, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit save into this folder. I previously downloaded it, so I'm just going to go ahead and overwrite that. Now it's going to take just a few seconds to download depending on your web speed, and depending on your browser, you're either going to click up here or something different. And we're going to go ahead and launch that, and this is going to start the program. Now you're going to notice this screen if you're running Windows 10, and this might be a little bit scary, but it's perfectly fine. For some reason, the Windows Defender does not recognize Construct 2, even though it's a perfectly legitimate program. We're going to go ahead and click this More Info button, and it's just going to tell you a little bit about it, and then it's going to give you the option to run anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and press Run Anyway. Now, if you've never installed Construct 2 before, it's just going to go ahead and start installing it. If you had a previous version, it's going to pop up here and ask you if you want to upgrade, and if so, what you're going to do to uninstall the previous version. So it's going to ask you about the license agreement. You can go ahead and read that if you would like, or you can click the accept button, and we're going to move on. You can go ahead and leave this as is. And if you want, let's go ahead and create an icon on our desktop so we can find it. We're going to click next and install. Now right here, it's going to tell me, hey, Construct 2 is already on your computer. Do you want to uninstall it? And yes, I do. So I'm going to click yes. Now this is going to take a few seconds. And if you have an older computer, it might take a little bit longer, but it will eventually complete. So we're just going to go ahead and let that run and install all of the files. All right, now that it's done, it's going to ask you a couple questions regarding Firefox and Chrome. There's a good chance you've already got those installed. We don't really need to do anything, and we can go ahead and launch Construct 2. So click Finish, and it's going to immediately start Construct 2. Now, again, if your computer's a little bit slow, Construct 2 does take a few seconds to load, so give it a little bit of time. We'll be patient. Even though I've got a really fast computer here with the video capture on, it is a little bit slow to come up. Now, the very first time you run Construct 2, it's going to ask you things like this. Do you want to read the release notes or not? I don't care, so I'm just going to say no. And then your screen may look like this, or it may have a little splash screen right here. It kind of depends on if you've ever launched Construct 2 before. This will be the screen that you get. And there's a couple of useful click and links on here. It'll show you previous games and so on. But if you didn't get that, that's fine as well. If it looks just like this, this is the button that will bring you back and forth to that start page. So now that we've got Construct 2 installed, we're ready to go on and create our very first game. So we're going to go ahead and switch over and do that on the next video. Over the next couple lessons, we're going to make an 8-direction game or a maze game. This is an example. Yours is going to look a lot different because these are just the characters that I built. But we've got our hero over here, this little yellow blob guy, and he's going to collect these coins that I've drawn, and he's going to go around the screen. And then he's going to come over here, and there's going to be some obstacles that he's going to have to avoid. Oh, and we also have a little secret door here. We'll show you about the secret door later. And when we come over to the obstacles or enemies, we can then go ahead and shoot them, and they'll explode. The main part of the main goal for this game is to build a maze where your hero has to climb around and collect objects. And then maybe we even have some little traps where they get stuck and they come in here just to find out that they can't get out. And then they have to go all the way back around in order to get to the exit. Now this particular game, we're going to start with just a single level, and then we'll add it out. And then once we've added all of the capabilities and all the functions, we'll go ahead and add a second level as well. And you can continue to build and expand this game as much as you would like. So it's a lot of fun. We've had the kids build some real interesting characters in the past and a lot of different effects that they've done as well. So here's the layout that we created that you just saw me walking through. You can see it's a large layout and it's got a lot of different components. And then we've got an event sheet where we'll start to learn more about how to put together events within our game in order to really bring them alive and show how we can go ahead and create different functionality. So let's go ahead and get started. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File, and we're going to say New, and we're going to create an open empty project, a new empty project. So this is going to be the default, and we're going to leave our window size and our screen size the same. So I'll go ahead and pause the video, and you can go ahead and do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our hero. So let's right click, insert an object. Our hero is going to be a sprite. Let's go ahead and call him hero and click insert. And I'm just going to place him on this top left-hand corner. And then that's going to pop up our image editor or our sprite editor. So I'll let you go ahead and do that. Now let's go ahead and create our hero. Now in my case, I just filled in the sprite with yellow. And then I went ahead and used the paintbrush and I set the size to about 20, or you might want to do 30. And then I went ahead and drew in some eyes and a little mouth. Now, one of the things, and you can create whatever you want. You do not have to follow this at all. But one of the things that you do want to do is you want your hero to be facing to the right, like mine is. Otherwise, he's going to be shifted funny. And for right now, we're just going to use the square. So go ahead and create a hero in this square using the paint can and the paintbrush and any colors that you want. All right, now that we have our hero, we're gonna just click this X, this close, to go back. And now we've got our hero. But as you can see, our hero is way too big for our game. So let's go ahead and resize him down to about that big. And keep in mind, this is going to be one giant maze. So we don't want our hero to be too big. And I'll just go ahead and scroll in to give you an idea of about how big to make him. So I've got him about that big on our game. And you can make him wide and tall if you want, or you can reshape him however you want. So go ahead and get that resized. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some behaviors to our hero. So let's go ahead and click behaviors. And we're going to add 3 behaviors. The first behavior is going to be 8 direction. And that's going to be what allows you to use the keyboard up, down, left, right arrow to drive him or walk him around the screen. We're also going to add this one called scroll to. And scroll to is going to tell it to follow him with the camera. So he'll go ahead and move around the screen and we'll go ahead and follow him. And then the last one is we're going to use this one called bound to layout. So you can't walk off the screen. It'll keep him on the white part of the screen. So go ahead and add all 3 of those behaviors. Now that we have those added, let's go ahead and close the behavior screen. And let's go ahead and create our walls. So let's right click, insert an object, and this time it's going to be a sprite. And we're going to call it wall. And we're going to click insert, and it doesn't really matter where we click. We're just going to click anywhere for right now. Now our walls are probably just going to be solid. So let's go ahead and use the paint can, and I'm going to pick a color like a dark blue, and I'm going to fill that in. So go ahead and fill in your color and close it, and we'll go ahead and move on and create our walls. Now you should have something that looks like this. We're going to resize this and we're going to make it kind of a thin wall. And we're going to make a lot of them because we're going to create a maze. So let's just get the initial one kind of created however we want. Now you can resize each of them, but the important thing is we're going to use this same wall over and over and over again. We're not going to create new sprites for each segment of the wall. So once you've got one set up like this, we'll go ahead and copy it. So go ahead and get one wall set up. All right, now instead of creating new walls by creating new sprites, we're going to hold down the control key and we're going to click and drag. And this is going to create copies of our wall. Now again, we're creating a maze, so we probably want to have a whole bunch of these, and we can just create them as we go. Keep in mind, our hero has to be able to fit through the wall, be able to fit through the open space. So make sure that your wall is big enough, and if it's too close like this, he's going to have a hard time getting through. And then also remember, if we want to create a one that's going the other direction, we can just go ahead and rotate it, or we can just click and drag it like this in order to make one that goes that direction. It's fine if they overlap the outside of the wall, and then to zoom out and use the scroll bar to go ahead and lay out your maze throughout the entire game. Now we're going to have our hero go from the starting point to some ending point, and it might be over here, or it might be up here, or it might be in the middle, or it could be over here. It doesn't really matter. You can do that any way you want. So go ahead and pause the video and lay out your entire maze. Okay, so here's how I laid out my maze. Now you can do it however you want, and don't worry if you want to change it once you play it. Like even mine, I can see this is probably too narrow here, so I may need to come back and make some adjustments to it. But the important thing is to just get your maze laid out. Now before we play this and test this, we need to do one more thing, and that is add solid behavior to our walls. Now we only need to do this to one wall because they're all the same object and they'll inherit that behavior. So click on any wall, click behaviors, and then we're going to click plus, and we're going to add solid, which you'll find right on the very top row. And then you can go ahead and close that. Now all of these are going to have the solid behavior, and that means that our hero can't walk through them. So with that, go ahead and add solid behavior, and then come back and we'll test our game. All right, let's go ahead and test this. Let's click run. And it's going to come up, and here's our hero. So now if we use the up, down, left, right arrow, we should be able to walk our hero around the screen. The camera should follow him. And if we don't have things too tight, he should be able to go around and go up and down and left and right and through the entire maze. Perfect. Well, mine looks like it's working good. So the idea of my maze is that he's got to go through this zigzag pattern here. And I'm going to add some obstacles in here a little bit later, which will be enemies that kill him that he's got to avoid. And then we'll also add some coins. But then he comes all the way over here, and then he's got to make a decision on whether or not he goes down or up. And only one of them is correct. So think about that when you build your game as well, and how you want that behavior to happen and how you want your maze to work. So with that, I'm going to let you go ahead and pause the video, play with your maze a little bit. If it didn't work the first time, go ahead and keep making tweaks to it until you get it just the way you want, and then come back and we'll talk about it the next step. All right, so how'd that work out? You got a maze that you want? Fantastic. So that's what we're going to do today is we're going to cover through the maze, and we're just going to go ahead and tweak this. I see I got 2 of them there. If you do have an object that needs to be deleted, for example, if I don't want this one, you can just hit the delete key on the keyboard, or you can right click and you can say delete. Where's delete? Right here, delete. And then it'll delete it. And if you change your mind, you didn't mean to delete it, there's an undo button right here, which will undo the operation that you just did. So that's what we're going to do today. I want you to just continue to test your maze and to work out exactly how you want it to work. And then tomorrow we're going to go ahead and add some coins to collect, and we're going to add some obstacles to avoid, and we're going to add some enemies as well that will be able to kill you. But I think you've got to admit that's pretty cool that in just a relatively short period of time, we have a completely functioning maze game. One more thing we're going to do before we end today's lesson is I'm going to show you how to save your game. Now this is really, really, really important because I don't want you to be working on a game for an hour and then have it crash or your laptop battery go dead or something and you lose all of your work. So we're going to save our game now, and then we're going to save our game frequently as we're working on it. So in Construct 2, we're going to go ahead and click on File, and we're going to go down to this one that says Save as Single File. We're not going to use Save as Project. We're going to use this one that says Save as Single File. So go ahead and click that. And it's going to ask you where to save it. Now you may want to check with your parents as to where the best place to save that is. In my case, I've created a folder called Games, and I'm just going to call it Maze, and I'm going to hit Save. Now that that's saved, if anything bad were to happen, I've got it right where I left off. Now if I make some changes, I'm going to want to save it again. So for example, if I add a couple more blocks up here just to create things a little bit confusing, which direction they go, you'll notice this icon is now ready, is not grayed out anymore. It's the save icon. That means that we've made changes since last time we saved it. Now that we've saved it once, we can just go ahead and click that icon and it'll save these changes as well. So it's a really good idea to save your game periodically so you don't lose anything. Now in order to open this game up tomorrow, or if you close it down and you want to come back to it, you can click File and it will show you your recent games right here, or you can click Open and you will be able to go back to that same folder. It defaulted to the wrong spot, but we'll be able to go back to that same folder and pick our game. In my case, it's going to be right here, and there's my maze game. And then I can click Open. It's already open, so it's not going to open it a second time. But that's how you'll be able to open your games up after you've saved them. So with that, I want you to go ahead and create the coolest maze you can think of and continue to add to it and make it fun to play. You can have your siblings test it out and make sure it works. And then tomorrow, I want you to show us what you built. And then we're going to add some more things to it. So that's all for today. Thanks. Today, we're going to pick up where we left off on our maze game yesterday. And today, we're going to learn about the event sheets and how those work. And we're just going to cover a couple of events real quick. Other things that we're going to do is we're going to add some coins to the game. We're going to add some obstacles. We'll add an exit so we know we've got to the end. And we'll probably add something like a win message to just say that, hey, you won. You got to the end of the maze. So let's talk a minute about events. Now, events are what make our games work, like the code. You can think of those as the logic behind the games. Now, what you saw with our maze games so far is that you could move them around with the keyboard, but there were no events. There was no logic behind them. He just literally moved around the screen. So events allow us to come in and say, well, if this happens, I want you to do that. So for example, when the hero overlaps the exit, we're going to show a win message. That'll be an event. So the hero overlaps the event is the, or I'm sorry, hero overlaps the exit is the event, and the show win message is the action. Another example might be when the hero collides with the enemy, we want to destroy the enemy. So this is the event, and then this is the action, the destroy the enemy. Or we may say when the space bar is pressed, we want to fire a laser, which is always fun. And we're going to add a lot of those to our games as well. So think about that for a second on what some of the other events that there may be that you'd want to create in a maze game. As I mentioned earlier, when we create an event, there's really two parts. The first part is called the event, and that's going to be the what. So these are going to be, for example, when an enemy collides with a hero. That's the what happens. And then the second part is called the action, and those are going to be what you want to have happened. So in this case, we may say, we want to destroy the enemy. So the event is enemy collides with hero, and the action is going to be destroy the enemy. So each event is going to have two parts, and that'll make a lot more sense here when we start to create them. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off yesterday. You can go ahead and open your maze if you haven't done so already. And we're going to go ahead and add a coin or something that looks like a coin for our hero to collect. And we're going to just place them along the maze. So what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to scroll over a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and right click, and we're going to insert a new object, and it's going to be a sprite, and I'm going to call it coin. And I'm going to click insert, and then I'm going to go ahead and click that just at the beginning of the game here, and we're going to get that pop up. So you go ahead and create your coin, and then pick up once you've got your editor up. All right, now that we've got our editor up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a yellow circle. Now there's an interesting way that we can create a circle. If we pick yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the paintbrush. And then if I set the size really large, like 250, what it'll do is it'll create this giant circle, and it'll just fit inside. In fact, I might make this 200, and it'll more easily fit inside. So this is going to be my coin. And then if I just single click, it'll make a circle, and then that'll be my coin. Now I want to do something else. I'm going to do 20, so I make it smaller again, and I'm going to pick like a black, and I'm going to draw a $sign on it. So let me see if I can draw a $sign. There we go. A little tick on the top and the bottom, and now I've got a coin. So you go ahead and create whatever type of coin you want to be as part of your game. And then when you're done, go ahead and click the exit sign, and then we're going to resize this to be about the size of a coin. So go ahead and create your coin. Now that we have our coin, let's go ahead and make copies of it. So again, we're going to hold down the control key on the keyboard, and we're going to click and drag. We're not going to go ahead and create new sprites. We're just going to use the same sprite over and over again. Now you don't have to create as many as I am, or you can create as many as you want. It's completely up to you. So let's just go ahead and lay those out throughout the layout, wherever you want to put them, and then go ahead and unpause the video when you're done. All right, I probably went a little crazy with the coins, but I like collecting coins. So I went ahead and put coins throughout. And then I also did a little thing here where I made it look like, hey, maybe you should go down here because there's coins, but there's no coins along here, even though this will be where my end is for my game. So think about that as well as you're laying out your game. Make sure it's a little bit challenging for the user, but yet it's still a completely functioning game and not impossible to win. All right, now that we have our coins all laid out, we can go ahead and start to put some logic in for when we go ahead and collect those coins. The next step is to go over to the event sheet. So go ahead and click on event sheet at the top. And remember, this is just going back and forth. So we've got layout, event sheet. So when we're done with the event sheet and we want to go back to the layout, you can just go ahead and click the layout. So on the event sheet, we're going to go ahead and create our very first event. And that event is going to be when our hero collides with the coin, we want to destroy the coin. So it'll make it look like we picked up the coin. Just for fun, why don't we play this before we add that event? So let's see what happens. Yep, just as I thought. Nothing happens when we collide with our coins, which is what I expected because we don't have any logic for that. So let's go ahead and add that logic. We'll go to the event sheet, and I'll let everybody go ahead and go to the event sheet. All right, now that we're here, let's go ahead and click Add Event. Now what you'll notice here is that all of our objects show up, including this one called System. And there's a lot of things in System that we will use, but we're not going to use those for this first event. What we're going to say is we're going to say Hero, and then we're going to click Next. So you go ahead and do that. Now these are all the events that are related to the hero. So you'll see things like is he visible? Is he overlapping another object? What's his height? What's his width? Is he in the layout? And stuff like that. One of them that we're going to use quite a bit is this one called On Collision with Another Object. Now, because there's a lot of them, you can always search right here. So we can say On Collision, and then it'll narrow down to just those that match. So either way, we want to go ahead and pick this one. So go ahead and pick On Collision with Another Object, and go ahead and click Next. And now Construct2 is going to ask us, well, what object? On collision with what object? And we're going to click the Click to Choose button, and we're going to say coin. So when hero collides with coin, we want to do something, and that's going to be our event. So we're going to click OK, and now you can click done. So I'll let everybody do that. So now everybody should have hero on collision with coin as the event, and there's no action. So let's go ahead and create an action, and we're going to click this word that says add action. And that action is going to be coin, because we want the coin to disappear, and then click next. And then we're going to use this one called destroy. So if we scroll down a little bit, you'll find destroy, and we're going to click done. So now it says hero on collision with coin, coin destroy. Now, if these windows are a little too narrow, you can adjust them using the little bars here and just make that so that it's nice and readable. Let's go ahead and play the game and see how this is now different. All right, so now as you can see, anytime you collide with a coin, the coin itself disappears. So it looks like we're collecting it. Excellent. Now there's all kinds of other things that we can do, like we can create explosions, or we can keep track of how many coins get collected and so on. So with that, I'm going to let you go ahead and test your game to make sure you can get to all your coins and you like the way that that works. Perfect. Well, hopefully everybody's game worked out perfect. If not, you know how to tweak it and adjust it and make it so that it actually functions correctly. So with that, we're going to add, the next thing we're going to add is some obstacles. And these obstacles are just going to be something that moves across the screen that you have to avoid. And if you don't, it will kill you and you'll have to start over. So with that, let's go ahead and create an obstacle. So I'm going to right click, insert an object. It's going to be a sprite. And for right now, I'm just going to place it right here. Now I'm going to do something very, very simple. Now you can draw somebody that is a bad guy, or you can do whatever you want on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and pick like a red color, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to do a big giant red X for right now. But you go ahead and create whatever you want. Okay, so my obstacle is this giant red X, and I resized it a little bit because it was too large, and you're probably going to need to do the same. And I'm going to place it in a couple of places throughout the layout. So I want them right here, and I want them right here because I want it to look like you're supposed to go back here, but you're not. And then I'm also going to put it right here, and then I'm going to put one final one over here. Let's see, right here, just to make it a little bit more difficult at the very end. So go ahead and put your enemies wherever you would like them. Now we're going to use a little trick for our enemies to move, and we're going to use a behavior called sign, and that's going to allow us to have them move left or right or up and down. So let's go ahead and pick on any one of our enemies. It doesn't matter which one. We're going to click behaviors. We're going to click add, and we're going to pick this one called sign, and it's S-I-N-E, and it's all the way at the very bottom. We're going to click add, and it's going to be the only event. So we can go ahead and close that. So go ahead and add sign behavior. Now the sign behavior has some properties. So if I click on this one here, you'll see on the properties, we've got a few things, and there's a couple that we want to be, that we may want to tweak. The first one is movement, and you can see there's a bunch, but we only want to work on these first two. Horizontal means left and right. Vertical means up and down. So this one, I actually want him to be horizontal because I want him to go left and right. This one, I want him to go up and down. So I'm going to click on him and I'm going to say vertical. And the period is the number of, or the amount of time in seconds for him to go back and forth. So, and then the magnitude is how many pixels he moves per period. So the time in seconds to complete a full cycle. So the default is 4. And so that means he's going to go essentially 50 pixels up and down in 4 seconds. So probably something like that. Now, if you want him to go really, really slow, we can say 10, in which case he's going to go really slow. If you want him to go a long ways, like across all the way up here and all the way down here, which I'm sure you might want to do, we can go ahead and make that a larger number like 250, and that'll go about the whole screen. So that'll have them go probably up to about there and then back down to here. So go ahead and set each of your enemies up, and don't worry if you don't get them exactly right now. We can go ahead and tweak them. So go ahead and adjust the properties for each of your enemies. Okay, so we don't have any events for our enemies to kill us just yet, but let's go ahead and play the game and see what happens with those enemies and see if they're the way we want them. So if you remember, I adjusted a couple of mine. So let's just zoom over here and see what they look like. Also, my hero is going kind of slow, so we may want to change some of those properties. Now remember, our enemies can't hurt us, so that's fine. Now, I can see right now this isn't going to work because he's not going far enough for me to get past him. There's just physically no way to do that. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to make that go a much larger thing, which is why we haven't put any code in for them to kill us. Let me check out this one over here. All right, so that's the one that's going way up and way down. So it looks like it's actually working pretty well. So it's going all the way up there and it's going all the way down there. So that one looks good. So go ahead and check yours and adjust the properties as necessary. Okay, so I've adjusted mine. I'm going to make one more change, and that's I'm going to make our hero go a little bit faster. So let's change max speed to 400, so he'll actually go about twice as fast. Now, you can go ahead and tweak yours and play around with the numbers and see where you like them, and then test it in between each one. Okay, so I've got up to my first enemy, and you can see he's going far enough, and I'm going fast enough to where I can get around him. So that all worked out perfect. If yours isn't still perfect, you can go ahead and continue to tweak it until you get it just right. All right, now would be a great time to save your game. Go ahead and just click the save button since we've added a few things. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set it up so our enemies can kill us and the game starts over. So we're going to go back over to the event sheet, and I'm going to let you think about it for a second. Go ahead and see if you can think about what the event should be. All right, so what'd you come up with? So the right answer is we're going to say hero, and we're going to say on collision with another object, and that object is going to be our enemy. And I see I forgot to rename my enemy, so it says Sprite 1. We'll go ahead and fix that here in a minute. And then we're going to click OK and done. So we've got hero on collision with Sprite or enemy. So go ahead and add that. Now I'm back on the event sheet. I'm just going to rename my enemy to call him enemy so that he's named properly. So just go ahead and click the name property, type in enemy, and then we can head back over to the event sheet and you see it says enemy. Now what do you suppose that action is going to be? Now this is something we haven't done before, but what the action is going to be is we're going to say system, and we're going to use this one called restart layout, which is right here. That essentially means you're just restarting the game from the beginning. Right now, we're not going to put a lot of logic in. We're just simply going to restart the game if you collide with the enemy. So we're going to click done. All right, now go ahead and run that and see what happens. All right, so I'm up at that first enemy. So I'm just going to run into him and see what happens, and yours should do the same. Boom. All right, as soon as we hit the enemy, we go back to the beginning and all of our coins have been restored. That's what we want to do for right now. So it looks like our event is working perfect. Now that we've got our enemies working, let's go ahead and put a finish line here at the end. And this is going to just be something that's got a little, we'll just create like a little flag or a little door that'll be our finish spot. And then we'll just have a message that comes up that says, you know, hey, you win or you finished. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right click, insert an object, a sprite, and we're going to click that wherever your end is. And yours can be anywhere you want. Now I'm going to do a door. I'm going to do a simple door. So I'm going to do a solid color blue, and then I'm going to pick that paintbrush again with a different color, and I'm going to do a yellow handle. And I'm just going to do a little doorknob like that. So it looks like a little door, but you can create whatever you want. So go ahead and create your finish line. Now that we've got our finish line, mine's way too big, so I'm going to shrink it. And now that I see it, I think that blue is too close to the other blue, so I'm actually going to change that to green. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in with green and close it, and you see that is now green. So now that we've got our finish, we can go ahead and add a message that says you win, and then we'll put some logic into that as well. Now to create a message, we're going to right click, insert. This time we're actually going to use something called a text, and you'll find text right here. We're going to click insert, and I'm going to place that right here at the very, very end. Now we're going to make this invisible so you can't see it, I'm going to just tweak mine a little bit here. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. I'm not going to move this coin. I don't want that coin there anymore. And the way we change the text is it's a property. So head over to the property side here and let's just type in "you win." All right, we don't want this to be visible. So let's change the initial visibility to invisible. Now what that means is if we just move our hero here, you won't see it. And we're going to have an event that shows that up and sets it visible. But to start with, we want it to be invisible. Now, if you want your text to be bigger, just go ahead and click the font here where it says Arial 12, and you can make that a little bit bigger. If you do make it too big, it might disappear, in which case you need to make this window bigger for your text box. So go ahead and adjust that the way you want it. Here's how I ended up with mine. It just says "you win." It's right above the door. So now, and it's set to invisible. So if I were to come here right now, I wouldn't see that text. But we also don't have any event for our door. So let's go ahead and go over to the event sheet and add those events. So what do you think those events should be? Do you have any idea? Go ahead and think about it and add the event if you think you know what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to say add event, and we're going to say hero. And I see I forgot to name my door as well. So we'll fix that in a minute. We're going to say hero on collision with another object. We're going to click next, and that object is going to be that door. So let's go ahead and click that sprite, and we're going to click done. Hero on collision with door. So go ahead and add that. Okay, I'm back on the event sheet and I'm going to rename this door. So door. Now it will show up properly on the event sheet. Hero on collision with door. Now the action, we're just going to do one thing to start with. The action is going to be, we want that text that we created to be visible. So we're going to click text and we're going to use this one called set visible. So I'm going to type in set visible. And we're going to click next, and our options are visible and invisible. So we're going to say, well, we want this to be visible now, and then we're going to click done. So our action is going to be, or our whole event is hero on collision with door, text set visible. Now there's some other things that we may do here as well. Like right now, it'll just let our hero wander around the maze some more, which is just fine. But let's go ahead and start there. Let's run the game and see if it works. All right, does yours work? Let's see if mine works. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to avoid that enemy, even though he's not quite sticking over. And I'm going to hit my door. Yes, it worked. It says "you win." Well, there you go. So now we've got the "you win" message showing up. But as you can see, our hero can still move around. We'll go ahead and fix that later. But for right now, this is what we wanted to get accomplished. So if that looks great, if yours didn't work out the way you want it, you can go ahead and tweak it now. Okay, let's move on and create the ability for our hero to shoot, because that's fun. So let's go ahead and create a new object, and this time it's going to be a bullet. So we're going to create a sprite, and I'm going to just do a circle again. I like the circles. So let's go ahead and make a 200 circle, and I'm going to make it, let's do pink. I like pink. Let's do pink. So we'll put a dot in the middle, and that's going to be our bullet. Well, it's obviously too big. Let's go ahead and resize that. So go ahead and create a bullet and come back when you're done. All right, I decided to make mine a little squished. So that's going to be my bullet. Now we're going to do a couple of things now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a behavior to this, and the behavior is going to be the bullet behavior. So let's go ahead and click behaviors. We're going to click add, and we're going to use this one called bullet. And that's going to have it shoot like a bullet. I'm also going to add a second one, which is going to be destroy outside of layout. And what that means is as soon as the bullet leaves the layout, it gets destroyed and it doesn't go on forever. So I'll go ahead and pause it there for you to add those two behaviors. Now we're going to add something called the keyboard object. And the reason we do this is so that we can pick up when the spacebar is pressed. So let's right click, insert an object. We're going to scroll down here where it says keyboard, and we're going to click insert. Now it doesn't technically do anything. You'll see a little message here that says the keyboard was added. but we won't see anything otherwise, but it will show up over here and it will also show up on our event sheet so we can catch that. Now that we have the keyboard added, let's go over and add those events. So go ahead and add the keyboard first. With the keyboard added, we should be able to click Add Event and see Keyboard, which we do. So let's go ahead and click Keyboard. If, by the way, your keyboard does not show up here, that means you forgot to add it. So go back and add it to the event sheet, or I'm sorry, the layout, and you may have to rewind the video for a few seconds. We're going to click Next. Now we're going to use this one that says On Key Pressed. Not any key, but On Key Pressed. And we're going to click Next, and then we're going to click to choose. And the way this works is we're going to click this button, and then it's going to ask us what key, and it wants us to type that key in on the keyboard. Now I'm going to use the space bar, so I'm going to literally press the space bar, and you'll see it shows up that I pressed the space bar. So now it says, anytime the space bar is pressed, we want the action to occur. So let's go ahead and click OK on that, and done. So that should be your event, keyboard, on key pressed, space. Now we're going to go ahead and add the action. Now the action is going to be a little bit tricky. Now the action is going to be hero, because we want our hero to shoot the bullet. And we're going to use this one called spawn another object. And it's right here. And you can also type it in. And then we're going to click next. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tell construct to what object. So we're going to click to choose, and we're going to pick that bullet. And I see I forgot to name it again. We'll go back and name that here in just a second. So we're going to go ahead and click OK on our bullet. And you can leave both of these as 0. And then we're going to go ahead and click Done. So now our action says, our event says, keyboard on spacebar pressed, hero, spawn a sprite. All right, let's go ahead and rename that. So back on our event sheet, we're going to click our bullet and we're going to name it bullet. So now on our event sheet, it will say hero spawn bullet. Now, because we added the bullet behavior, it's going to take on all the properties of the bullet and we don't need to do anything else. Now, keep in mind that bullet doesn't do any damage yet, but it will shoot. So let's go ahead and run the game and see what happens. Okay, so I got my hero and I can shoot by pressing the space bar. And like I said, it doesn't do anything just yet, but it does actually shoot, which is kind of cool. Now there's a few things you might notice. One, it's shooting the bullet from the middle of his head. We can fix that. And the other is the bullet is going straight through walls, which we can also fix. And it obviously isn't doing anything. So I think what we want to do is if we shoot a coin, it destroys the coin, but more importantly, if it shoots an enemy, we want to destroy that enemy. So those are going to be the next few things that we add in. Okay, let's add these last two things in and then we'll be done for today's lesson. Now, those two things are going to be, we want our bullet to not go through walls, and we want our bullet to be able to kill the enemy or the coins, depending on which they hit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the event sheet, and we're going to say event, we're going to say bullet, and then we're going to say on collision with another object. And now we're going to pick that other object. Well, let's start with the coin. And then we're going to click Done. So we have bullet on collision with coin. Now what we want to have happen is two things. We want to destroy our bullet so it doesn't keep going, and we want to destroy our coin. So let's add the first action, which is going to be bullet, and then destroy. Now that we've got the first action, let's go ahead and click the add action, and we're going to add a second action to the same exact event. So we're going to click add action, and this time we're going to say coin, and we're going to say destroy. So go ahead and add that. So now you see it says bullet on collision with coin, the bullet's destroyed, and the coin is destroyed. Let's run that and see what happens. Okay, there we go. So now our bullet will destroy a coin. We still won't destroy an enemy, and as you can see, it goes through walls. So how are we going to do it so the bullet doesn't go through a wall? So think about that for a second, and then we'll go ahead and show you. So the event is going to be bullet on collision with another object, and that object is going to be our wall. Now when it collides with the wall, we don't want the wall to destroy, we just want the bullet to destroy. So unlike when we were doing the coins, we're just going to have the bullet destroy. So go ahead and add this event. And now the action is going to be bullet, and we're going to use destroy again. So now what will happen is when the bullet hits the wall, the bullet gets destroyed. Let's go ahead and test that. Okay, still destroys our coin, and sure enough, it does not destroy our wall, but it also doesn't go through our wall. So that is exactly what we want. Now the last one is we want to be able to shoot our enemy. Right now, it will go right through our enemy, but not harm them. So how are we going to do that? It's going to be similar to the coin. Let's go ahead and add that. So we're going to say bullet on collision with another object, and that object is going to be our enemy. And in this case, we're going to destroy the enemy. And we should also destroy the bullet so the bullet doesn't keep going. So go ahead and add those two in and test your game. I clicked the wrong one. Destroy. Destroy. Whoops. Destroy. There we go. Okay, there we go. Bullet on collision with enemy, enemy destroy, bullet destroy. All right, test that and see if it works. Okay, let's see if it works. We've got our enemy right in front of us, and boom, it destroys. Perfect. So there we go. That's all we're going to do today. I'd like you to go ahead and finish out your maze, make it more complicated if necessary, add more coins or take coins off now that you've had a chance to play it. And keep in mind, we only added one enemy, but you're more than welcome to add a couple of enemies. You can add some additional logic now that you know how things interact with each other. And then tomorrow, we might add a few more things to this game, including a couple additional levels and maybe some explosions to our coins. So if you have any questions, shoot us an email. Otherwise, we'll chat with you tomorrow. Oh, wait, one more thing I forgot to mention. Save your game. Go ahead and click the save button. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Yesterday we added quite a bit to our maze game, and today we're actually going to finish that up. We're going to add a couple of things. We're going to add an explosion to the coins when you shoot them, and maybe the enemies as well, just because it's fun. We're going to show you how to add a second level, and we're going to show you how to add the ability to do like a hidden door that you can kind of walk through, but nobody else will know that it's there. And also, we might even add some additional treasures, or if you want to do some different coins, like maybe you want to have a coin chest somewhere within your game, we'll go ahead and add those as well. So if you had some cool things that you added, I'd love to hear about them. Send us an email or a screenshot of your game, or mention it when we're on our video call here later this week. So let's go ahead and get started by adding something called a particles. Now, particles are what causes an explosion within a game. So for example, when we shoot the coin, what I'd like to do is have kind of like little mini coins go sparkling off. And Construct 2 makes it really easy to do that. So let's go ahead and create a particle. We're going to right click, insert an object, and you'll actually see it right here listed as an object. And I'm going to call this coin particle, just because we're going to have multiple particles. And then I'm going to click insert. Now it's going to ask us where to put it. We're going to place it outside of the layout, and we want it kind of out of the way because you might see it when the game starts. Now for this, I'm going to create a yellow block, or just a circle, and you'll see why here in a little bit. We don't need to do anything overly creative here because it's going to go ahead and create multiples of them. So go ahead and just create a little circle for right now. Okay, now that we've got our circle, because particles will get auto-generated, they need to be a little bit smaller. So by default, this object is just simply too small. Click this little link, or this little button here that says resize, and the default size is 250 by 250. I'm going to just change it to 25 by 25. So I'm just going to delete that 0 off and hit OK. Now you'll see it's much, much, much smaller, but that actually is going to work out fine. Oh, now it's just a big solid block. All right, let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and erase this. We'll click this, and we need to make this smaller. So let's make this 20, and let's put a new circle in there. There we go. So now we've got a really small circle, and we'll go ahead and close that. All right, so here's what our particles look like. And you can see if I resize the particle, the individual circle doesn't change, which is specifically the way particles work. That's why we had to resize that. So anyway, we're going to place it outside of the screen. Now this red line here is going to be our cone spray, and that's going to be where the particles shoot out. For this particular one, we want them to go all the way around the entire object. So with this selected, we're going to go over here and we're going to change a couple of properties. We're going to change two properties specifically. The first one is the spray cone. We're going to set that to 360 and then hit enter, and that'll do the full circle all the way around. And the second is we're going to change this continuous spray to one shot. So go ahead and make those two changes. Now that we've got our particles in place, we can head over to the event sheet and have them get created when we shoot a coin. So we're going to want to locate this event, and on mine it's event number 5. It says bullet on collision with coin. In this case, we're just destroying the bullet and the coin. We're going to add a third action. So we're going to click add action, and we're going to tell the coin, and we're going to click next, and we're going to use this spawn another object, just like we used when we shot our bullet. And we're going to click on the object to choose, and we're going to say coin particles, and we're going to click OK and done. So now we've got coin, spawn another object, those particles we just created. So go ahead and add that. Okay, so now let's run it, and let's see what happens when we shoot one of these coins. Boom. Do you see that cool effect? So when we collect it, it just disappears. But if we shoot it, it creates an explosion. And do you see all those little circles? So that's the little yellow dot that we made. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and create a little bit more complicated of a particle and have a neater effect. So you could create a little fire explosion, or you could create a multicolored explosion, or whatever you want. So that's how we work with particles. Well, let's go ahead and add one for our enemy as well. The process is the same. Let's go ahead and right click, add an object. We're going to pick particles. This time we're going to say enemy particle. And then we're going to click insert and place it outside of the screen again. Now for our enemy, which in my case is just a big cross, it doesn't really matter what we use. We can go ahead and do the same, but just do a red particle. So let's go ahead and resize this first, and let's make it 25 by 25, and we'll hit OK. Now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to do a little red dot. So like I said, you can actually, you know what? I'm going to do a blue dot. I'm going to do a blue dot. No, let's do green. I'm going to do a green dot. Green dot it is. Now, if you want, you could create some other objects in here. So for example, we could do, we'll put this down to 5. We could take black, and we could do like a little, I don't know, just some dots on it, something like that. But anyway, you could create whatever you want. So go ahead and create your particle for your enemy, and then exit when you're done. Now we're going to change those same two properties. We're going to set this to 360 for the spray cone, and we're going to change the type to one shot. Now, if you forget to change this to one shot, which will happen, what happens is that spray cone just goes forever, so it doesn't disappear. And you'll see what I mean if you forgot it. It's inevitable that you'll forget it at least once. So now that we've got those two properties set, let's head over to the event sheet. On the event sheet, we're going to want to locate this event. In my case, it's number 7. It's going to be bullet on collision with enemy. And we're going to add another event, another action. And this is going to be the same as we did a minute ago, except it's going to be enemy, spawn another object, and that object is going to be the particle we just created. So it's going to be this one, enemy particles. And we're going to click done. So now we're going to say destroy the enemy. We're going to say bullet gets destroyed as well, so it doesn't keep going. And then we're going to spawn that particle. Let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. Okay, so we're about ready to shoot our enemy. Let's see what happens. Oh, I missed. Oh, there we go. Well, that was kind of cool. So you get an idea of what those particles look like. And like I said, you can kind of create whatever you want. Let's shoot another one. Nice. So in that case, if you didn't change it to one shot, that effect would just keep going indefinitely, which, you know, in some cases you may actually want. So anyway, let's head back over to our game and we'll add some more things. Okay, now that we're back at our game, there's one thing that I think we should fix, and that is when our hero shoots a bullet, the bullet comes out of the middle of his head. Let's have the bullet spawn in front of our hero. Now, this is really easy to do in Construct 2. Let's just go ahead and double click on our hero. And we're going to use something called the image point editor. And it's this little guy with a crosshair. So go ahead and click on that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new image point. We don't want to move the original one, but we're going to create a new one. So click Add Image Point, and it's going to create another one here. And the way this works is we just single click. It's not a drag. So right now it's in the middle. So wherever we click this, we just click it once. That's going to be where our bullet spawns. Now we do have to make it a change on our event sheet, but in this case we want to say new image point and we want to put it in front of our hero. So go ahead and add that. Now that we have that image point created, let's scroll back up to where we're shooting the bullet, which in my case is row 4 or event 4. And we're going to go back to this event, this action right here. So double click on that. And right here where we left this at 0 image point, we're going to change that to 1. And that's going to be the image point we just created. So go ahead and click Done. Now let's run our game and see what happens when we shoot. Okay, look at that. Now our hero is shooting right in front of him, which is exactly what we want. So that's how we go ahead and adjust those image points so that when we shoot, it makes sense. It doesn't spawn from the middle of our object. Okay, so let's add one more thing. And this is something that you may have already done, but it's something if you didn't do, now would be a good time to kind of learn how that works. And that is create a little hidden door, a hidden secret spot where you can go through a wall, even though it doesn't look like you can. And the way this is going to work is we're going to create a little hole in a wall, but we're not going to tell anybody about it. So for example, I'm going to resize this and I'm going to put this one over here. So it looks like they're in alignment. And then I'm going to create a brand new object. And I need this same color. So let's load this up and let's pick this eyedropper so we can pick the same color. And this will allow me to pick the color. So I just need to pick that once and that'll remember when I create the next object. So go ahead and pick the color of your wall. Now let's create a new sprite. Right click, insert an object, sprite. I'm going to place it right here. Now it's got that same color, so I can use the fill can and I can just fill this in and close it. Now what I did was I have a new object and it looks exactly like my wall. In fact, I'm going to line these up so that it's a perfect match and the user will never know I've got a second sprite right here. But what I'm not going to do, unlike when I added my original wall, is I'm not going to add solid to this. Now, if you remember, our wall originally has the solid behavior, which means we can't walk through it. This one, I'm not going to add that solid behavior. So our hero is going to be able to walk through it. Now let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. Okay, so I'm up right where I created that, and I see I've got it slightly lined wrong, so you can kind of see where it is there. But normally you'd be like, hey, I can't go through these walls because they're solid, but I can go right through it. So it's a quick way to create like a hidden secret passageway. So now that you know how to do that, you can go ahead and add those to your game anywhere you want. So perhaps you even want to set it up so that your game has no way to the end, but you have to know of a secret way to get there. Whoa, I almost ran into that enemy. All right, go ahead and add a secret passage. So now that you've got that secret passage, one thing that I probably should have done and I forgot, which was give this a name. So let's just call this secret wall. There we go. So now it's got a name just like everything else within our game. All right, now that we've got our first level built, let's go ahead and add a second level to this game. And that's going to make things a little bit complicated, but what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to add a second level, and then I'm going to let you go ahead and build that second level here once we're done, and then we can revisit that on our next time we get together, and you can show us what you built. So there's a really, really easy way to essentially duplicate this level, and then you can go ahead and just start making modifications. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go over here to our projects bar, and we're going to locate layout 1, and that's this layout. That's the one that we're on right now. We're going to right click on it, and you're going to see an option that says duplicate. So we're going to click duplicate. Now it's going to say, hey, what do you want to name it? Well, we just want to leave it that name because we really don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the enter key on the keyboard so that it's not selected anymore. And now we've got layout 1 and layout 2. Notice we only have layout 1 open. Now double click on layout 2 and that'll open it. Now you'll see it's up here, layout 1, layout event sheet 1, and layout 2. Now what you'll notice is that layout 1 and 2 are absolutely identical. And that's because we duplicated it. So with level 2 selected, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and delete a bunch of these guys. So I'm just going to highlight them all. Actually, I'm going to highlight pretty much everything. And then I'm going to hit the delete key to delete them. I'm going to leave a couple of them on the screen so that we can recreate them. Now, you can go ahead and build a level 2. And you can build the level 2 just like you built level 1. Now, if you accidentally deleted something that you want, you can actually just grab it from here on the right and drag it back on. You don't need to recreate it. So for example, and make sure you've got at least one, your hero on here one time. But for example, if we did delete all the coins, we can just drag them back on here as well. So anyway, that's how we're going to create a second level. So I'm going to let you go ahead and build that. But before we finish our second level, all I want you to do is delete everything like I've just done it. And don't bother to recreate the second level just yet. I'm going to go back and show you how to go from level 1 to level 2. So let's go ahead and delete everything, or most everything like I just did, and then we'll go ahead and go back and add that logic. Okay, now we've got level 1 and a placeholder for level 2. Level 1, completed level. Level 2 only has a few things on it, and we clearly haven't finished it yet. Now what we're going to do is on level 1, when we get to the end, we're going to tell the system to go to the next level. So before we just said you win. So we're going to actually get rid of that. So highlight you win and delete it. We don't want that anymore. And this will just tell you that you deleted the last instance. No big deal. It still exists. It's still right. It's actually up here now, but we can still bring it back if we want. And we're going to change the logic for our door. So our door before just showed the you win message, and now we want it to go to level 2. So let's head over to the event sheet. Okay, on the event sheet, we're going to locate this event right here. In my case, it's level or event 3. Sorry, it's event 3. Hero on collision with door, text set visible. Well, we no longer want this to be there, so let's delete that and just hit the delete key. We're going to add a new action. So go ahead and delete that and then come back. Now we're going to add a new action, which is going to be system, which we've only used one other time. And we're going to use this one right here that says go to next previous layout and click next. And it's going to give us an option. Do we want to go to the next level or the previous? Well, we want to go to the next level. So let's go ahead and leave it on next and hit done. Now, what's going to happen when we go through this door is it's automatically going to go from whatever level you're on to the next level. So if you create a third level, if you right click and say duplicate, when you get from level 2 to 3, it'll go, when you hit the door on level 2, it'll take you to 3 and so on. So let's test this out real quick. Okay, so I'm on level 1. I'm about ready to go through the door. So let me go through the door. And boom, I went on to my second level. Now I haven't completed my second level yet. In fact, I don't even have a door on my second level, but I've got the placeholder for level 2 here. And then I can do the same thing with level 3. So now back here on level 2, I can bring that door in, and you'll find the door right here if you accidentally deleted it. And you can put that door anywhere you want. Now, as soon as you collide with this door, it's going to take you to level 3 and so on. So now what I want you to do is I want you to build out levels 2 and 3. Remember, right click, duplicate, and you can continue to do this as many times as you want. Just remember to double click on it to open it, and it'll look identical, so make sure you change it. Now you can go ahead and create 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels, as many as you want, and then keep changing each of them. So tomorrow I'd like to see what your levels look like, and then we'll go ahead and this will be the end of this maze game. We're going to start a new game on the next lesson. So let me know if you have any questions and shoot us over any problems that you run into, and we'll be happy to help you out. Whoops, I did it again. I forgot to remind you to save your game. We don't want you to lose these games. So periodically you should remember to save your game throughout the lesson, but now that we're done for the day, before you go ahead and create levels 2, 3, 4, and 5 and so on, go ahead and hit that save button so we don't lose anything, because I'd hate for anybody to lose their masterpieces. So with that, save your game, go ahead and build out your next level. We'll see you tomorrow. Hello, I'm Obushi, the founder of Gaming Bootcamp, and when we found out that schools were going to be closed and they may not be open for many months to come, we thought we should do something to help the kids so that they don't get too bored while sitting at home waiting for school to start back up again. So we went ahead and took our in-person coding clubs that we run throughout the city and we've digitized them and we've converted them to an online curriculum where the kids can go at their own pace and then also be able to meet up with our instructors via a virtual conference over the internet to be able to get help and assistance or be able to build things that they maybe don't know how to build as part of the curriculum. And we're going to be running this throughout the summer until the school gets back into session. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, or if your kids might be interested in learning how to build video games, head over to sdgamingbootcamp.com and you'll find all the information.